Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. By popular demand, ladies and gentlemen, if not by yourselves, certainly by myself, the wonderful Rob from Grounding Garden Gatherings is back to give us some positivity. And we're going to be talking about whether you can be your own best friend or indeed your own worst enemy. Rob, it's lovely to have you back on the show. Thank you for joining me once again.
Thank you, Richard. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, this is the nature of the beast right now is what are we doing for ourselves? Are we, as a chief said once to his grandson, who asked the question, which wolf wins? And as the chief described, there's a battle between two wolves in each and every one of us. One is full of love, appreciation, beauty, forgiveness, joy, connection, creativity, love, all of the most beneficial things to each and every one of us. And the
Yep.
other wolf is full of anger, resentment, uncontrolled jealousy, and anything else that is on that scale of negative to positive.
Well, I'm very pleased that you've described us both, and I'll be the former, of course. You could be the latter. And you're saying that that's actually in each and every one of us. There's the sort of positive and negative, effectively.
Positive and negative in every moment, how we frame our reality, our experience in every moment. And to finish the thing about that story is when the grandson asked the chief, which wolf wins, the answer is the one you feed.
Ah, yes.
Right.
And it's interesting you say that because this morning, and we're recording this on a Sunday, although it may not go out today, but I did a monologue this morning saying, really, we're crazy if we continue to watch the frightening narrative that's coming up everywhere, not just on the mainstream news, but on the YouTubes and Rumbles and constant sort of, these are the problems, this is the worst that's going to happen, and, be fearful. And even though people want to know, and, they say, well, shouldn't I know what's about to happen? I just am beginning to get a bit... yeah, but all the time we're just going to keep manifesting the same. And but then the other argument is if you stick your head in the sand and you go, no, nothing's happening, there's nothing to worry about, we're all going to be all right, you won't see it when the troops come over the hill and start sticking their spears in you.
Yes, so when good men and women and children do nothing, evil prospers, or, how does that actually operate? And
Mm,
people seem to think that you have to fight, right? You have to fight the evils in the
come
world
on,
that are,
stick 'em up.
yeah. But that is a conditioning over thousands of years of bad behavior and
Mm.
reactivity. And the idea that a bad deed should be replied to with a bad deed. But then we are always faced ultimately with the wonderful adage of a blind, what is it? You remember it?
What's
Um,
that? A blind
an
man
eye
is
for a,
an eye for an eye, a tooth for a
makes
tooth,
the whole world blind.
and toothless.
Yeah. Yes, because we're just
How,
perpetuating.
what happened to me? Sorry.
But isn't that we're
Well, it is,
perpetuating?
yes. I mean, if you're, well, this is what we've seen, isn't it? You get infighting in groups and gangs in London, say, as an example, and it just carries on. And then the next generation comes up and they're taught, oh, look, son, they're the people we hate. There's no reconciliation. There's no, well, let's see if there's another way of sorting this out. One family against another family, fall out with your in-laws, or so you say the wrong thing. Oh, have you been jabbed? And suddenly they don't want to know you, and you've got to try and find it. Otherwise, it just is perpetuating the same.
And as we've just gone through, and you just alluded to, that whole process through the unmentionable C word
Hmm.
is something that has highlighted our struggle. Because those of us that made a different choice to others, and that works both ways,
Yep.
whichever side of the fence you may have fell on,
Yep.
at this time, we need to look at all of the evidence with a clear, focused, calm mind and heart, review, and come together to see what was real and what was illusionary, what was faked, what was um, not in our best interests.
Mm.
And I don't mind going straight to the main crux of this, which is excess deaths right now are over the amount of deaths that were happening in the so-called pandemic. And no one's talking about it.
Well, they are talking about it, but they're not talking about it in mainstream media and in the government. And in fact, Rishi Sunak was asked only the other day, were these medical interventions, they were awful by Andrew Bridgen, and he turned around and said, no, they're still safe and effective. So they're still churning out the myth.
Which, again, when you're focused and calm and you look at the evidence that is also coming from their own system, the ONS, Office of
exactly. I mean, it's there.
Exactly. It's there for everyone to see in plain sight. Of course, we don't know what can be manipulated on their end. I would suggest at this point, pretty much anything. And therefore, where does our best... okay, let me ask you a question. What is the best or the most valuable thing that anyone on this planet as a being has?
What do we have? Well, life, I suppose.
And what is life like in a lifetime you have?
Joy, fun.
And in fun or in sorrow or in any experience and feeling,
yes.
What is that? You have something that is...
Hang on, I'll just look at the answer. I can't read my writing. You'll have to tell. Is it love?
Well, love comes from...
Right. Understand.
What we have most of.
3 letters.
Our TikTok time.
Time! Our limited time on this planet. The most precious thing we have is time. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I don't know whether you heard that. It's just Windows coming up with you have no threats, which is nice to know. Yes, time. I mean, time is. But then I don't necessarily think you want to get into this. But time is, in this incarnation, I guess, is what you're saying. Because people may think, well, actually, time goes on forever, and time is irrelevant, and all time has happened all at once.
But what do you want to do with your day? If everyone had the choice,
Yes.
What would you? How do you imagine? And this gets me into the breath work that I want to talk about. How do you imagine your average perfect day to be?
Well, unique for one thing, different every day. I don't want to be routine. You don't want to be working for it. Well, work in and of itself can be joyous if it's something that is something you enjoy. So the day can be passed in many, many different ways. So I have no sort of set thing. I'm enjoying talking to you, for example. I enjoy talking to people. So sharing views and ideas is great, and listening to your point of view, and then correcting you when you're wrong. It's quite simple.
So conversing, but having a different experience with everyone you converse with, but in terms of so certain things like, if you can just close your eyes and imagine for a moment, what is your perfect surroundings? Like for some people, it would be the beach. For some others, it would be a mountaintop. For some others, it would be by a river or where you've got the sound of the water running down a waterfall. It's different for everyone, and there's no one size fits all. And that, again, for everyone in life, we're all unique, as you said. So for each day to be unique for each person, there is no uniformity in life. Only that in the system that tries to say, well, your child isn't focusing in our class. And there's the famous example of someone who was very into dancing or ballet, whose teacher went to the parents and said to them, well, look, he's not supposed to be in my class. He's supposed to be a dancer. And they didn't want to hear that. So they kept putting him in, or her, in their class. But absolutely, what are you doing? You're not allowing that individual who is unique to have their own unique expression fulfilled. When I say average perfect day, it's different for everyone. I don't mean that everyone has to imagine, well, Look, for some people, it would be, I'd love to be a rock star and take loads of drugs, but it's not sustainable. I'm getting at imagining your perfect day, which is different every day, which encapsulates the values within you that you give back to the world, to others, that you are feeling beneficial about yourself because you've done something to make yourself feel proud that day. And you do it every day. So you offer yourself in service to others rather than the value system that has been manipulated and constructed in the reality at play, that we spend our time making money, which is a value all of its own. It can lead to many things. But what service is coming back from ourselves to others? How are we benefiting others? Are we, in fact, at all benefiting others if all that's happening is paper is being pushed around and someone higher in your company is making more money than you?
Yes. I mean, I agree with everything you say there. But I'm not quite sure what the. So tell me about then go back to this that you can be your best friend or your worst enemy, because I think we all do that, don't we? We're all good to ourselves, but at the same time, sometimes we do things and you just know I'm being a complete arse. I'm not following my true, and it might be in conversation, you know. So I might be a bit cheeky with you and not take something you say very seriously, and I have to hold back because often people say things and there's jokes that come into my head, especially when somebody's very serious, and I can't say it. And there's the element of me that says, "Oh, sod it, just say that. Go on, have a laugh at this point," and it would throw the person completely off their track. And so it's like the little devil in me going, "Go on, upset them a bit," and that would be, you know, being your worst enemy, because then the other person doesn't take you seriously at all, and then the being my best friend is just listening to everything that you say and nodding and going, oh wow, that's really interesting.
Well, in what you're doing, that is a huge consideration for you because you are the interviewer. So you have to make the experience so that the interviewee can be listened to and have what they want to say heard,
Yes.
and expressed. But uh, just take your mind back to, you're not anything, or you're not a role. You're not playing a role, and you're living one life, one day at a time. So each day is a different life, if you like. And when you start that day by being your best friend, how would you start that day? And this is getting me into the breath work now. So how do you start your day? Let me ask that question first.
Well, I wake up, I spring out of bed. I actually enjoy life very much, so I might not be your average person who thinks, "Oh God, I've got to go to work." So I start very positively. I already thinking, "Yep, it's going to be a blue sky. There's no chemtrails. The geoengineering is not a thing. The WEF and all that lot are all died overnight. They've drunk something and snuffed it. It's all over." I do a lot of positive.
Note to everyone, can we all envision that they've all just died overnight?
I do. I mean, I've now doing this thing where it's all of this is it's kind of been a joke, and it's all over. And I say to myself, it's a lot of positive affirmation. But in practical terms, I'll get up, I'll get dressed. I record something called The Naked Englishman, which is a audio podcast. And I record that and stick that online. I go and then do my monologue of the day, which over the period of time that I've been up, I never worry about it. Something suddenly occurs to me and I think, oh, I'll talk about this. Sometimes I'll check my emails and there'll be an email that will come in, or I've seen one the night before, and I'll go, oh yeah, that's an interesting sub. We need to talk about that, which might be about council tax or something. And then I'm looking in my diary and going, who the hell am I interviewing today?
You're going into sort of how the day, how you envision, you know, each moment of the day. But what are fundamental things that you start your day with? For me, it would be brushing my teeth.
Oh yes, I mean, I brush my teeth occasionally. You know, wash my face, all those, yes, all the ablutions that we do.
Things that we do to keep ourselves at an optimum level of like health and, you know, freshness, if you like. And so with breath work, and a lot of people are saying, at this point in time, well, you know, it's just breathing. We do it all the time. There's nothing to it. But most people aren't aware that they're spending their entire lives breathing into their chest,
Yes.
which is not the right way of breathing, and
No.
breathing through their mouth, which is not the right way of breathing. What we ought to be doing is breathing through the nose, nose for breathing, mouth for eating. And when you breathe through the nose, just try it now, and you'll see that actually
Well,
it's
I mean, other than when you're talking and you suddenly gasp for breath because you talk, because it's very difficult to talk and go, and then carry on talking and then go such and such. So you do breathe through your mouth when you're in, and I'm aware of that. But ordinarily, I do. Is it, what's his name? Nest. I've read a couple of books on breathing. In the long and they talk about, you know, breathing through your nose, and he did this experiment where he taped up his nose and breathed only through his mouth over a month, and he was incredibly ill.
Wow. Well, there we go. So that be the
Because the nose is filtering so much and doing so much.
and promotes nitrous oxide naturally. Whereas breathing through the mouth is ultimately, if everyone listening tries it now and you breathe through the mouth, you'll feel that your chest elevates a little bit. If you put your hand on your chest around your heart area, that's what happens. If you breathe through your nose inwardly, your diaphragm expands a little bit.
Yes.
That's what we're looking for in breath. Now,
And interestingly, just to jump in there, we had Sarah Myhill on the show, Dr. Sarah Myhill, and she said, fascinating, that as part of that breathing process and the diaphragm doing what it does, it also helps bring the blood back up from the legs.
Yes.
Because of that motion of the diaphragm, which I found really interesting.
The body is a perfect system. A reason why people breathe through the mouth is because of fear. Yeah, right. So you just did it. If you you have a moment where you gasp, right?
Yeah.
But actually, you know, in perfect calmness and in a moment, say, you know, just again, close your eyes and imagine your perfect average perfect day, and you are calm, serene, in beauty, in bliss. You're listening to a sound. Maybe it's the birds tweeting. Maybe it's the sound of the ocean going in and out. Whatever it may be, you create a focus and a calmness and a center point. Our perfect optimum breathing is through the nose every time. Obviously, when we're speaking, we have to use the mouth. But even then, you know, singers and actors have to cultivate levels of breathing that are trained, you know.
Yes, because they may have speeches in which they are exhaling as they speak for a long time, and they need to be able to have that depth, as you say, with singers, especially opera singers.
Yes, exactly. So the knowledge is still there, but it's been sort of suppressed, as many things have. But what I mean, I have no way of benefiting financially, because I know that's a big thing for people. Oh, he's just another guy plugging his methodology and his healing technique, and it's all about the money. No, I want everyone to be healthy, because I've also realized that I'm just as much the same as anybody else on this planet. There's a part of me that exists within them and a part of them that exists within me. We're all breathing the same air. We're all on this different sized boats, as I think we alluded to before in another chat, but we're all together in this ride through life, this journey through life. And I'm absolutely sure in my own heart at this point that the best thing everyone can do is remain optimally healthy through these times. Because they are doing everything they can to invert that and make us unhealthy, so that we need their thingy-majiggies and everything else that they're offering, which is the imbalance, the inversion, whatever you want to call it. But if you're open, Richard, I'll just do a very simple, quick, you know, just see how you feel with an exercise. Take a minute or two.
Okay.
It's called box breathing. So you breathe in.
Oh, do I need a box?
No. Your box is your vessel.
right?
And all you have to do is very simply do as I say. So the
Okay.
breathe in for 4 seconds through the nose, or a count of four. Doesn't have to be a second. Just
Well, I've done it now. You've
yeah.
just got over 4 seconds, this swine.
And so obviously, get the whole thing and then try it. So breathe to a count of four. 1, 2, 3, 4 in. Hold 2, 3, 4. Release 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. I am in breathing God's pure source. Sorry, excuse me. I am in breathing God's pure source oxygen. I am assimilating God's pure source oxygen. I am expanding God's pure source oxygen. I am projecting God's pure source oxygen. And if you get in a rhythm with that, and it's the affirmations that stop the monkey mind and bring you back to a state of calm. Lao Zhao is, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, said that the perfect human being who's aware of their breath breathes like they don't breathe at all. So you don't actually, give much of a sign of breathing because it's so relaxed and so sure that actually it's effortless and there's no gasp, there's no reactivity to anything around you. And this is when you attract people to trust you because you are in that state. You're in the center of the storm even, and you're the calmness, the root of that. And no one can do anything to you that you don't have a response to that is your natural response, if that makes sense. So instead of reacting, and this idea in a lot of the world right now, if you look at the politics and what's just happened in America, Biden's saying we're going to avenge these attacks, or whoever's saying they're going to avenge or have revenge, or all of these things. Instead of that, in life, when something that you perceive to be negative happens, take a moment to get into that box breathing. Stay calm. Don't respond. No one's going to do anything to you if you don't respond. They will generally just be curious if you just stay silent because
Yes.
it's so unusual.
Well, exactly. Well, I was going to say is that if you're calm when everyone else is, it's that thing about everyone else is running around. If you're calm when everyone else is losing their heads.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So we all use the word love. If you want to make an acronym from it, LOVE, level of vibrational energy. When you're in flight, fight, or freeze, you're going to attract the things that mentality and that vibration have. So you're projecting an image, a movie screen in your mind's eye, and that will come towards you.
Yes, you're manifesting the things you're worried about.
Right. And this is, cycling back again to when we keep focusing on the negative, that's when we become our own worst enemy because we can't do anything about what these people are doing. We really can't. We can't go into Davos and arrest them all. It's not
No,
work.
when you say that, you mean you can't physically do something, but you can mentally do something by changing your perception.
Sorry, yes. Thank you for correcting me because there's everything we can do, but we can't do it from a position of fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah, yeah.
When we get calm and we recognize the power within, which what we would want to do with our average perfect day every day, although albeit every day being unique,
Yes.
then we are inviting and attracting all of the love that wants to express itself. So by being non-reactive, by being centered and calm, you can invite that vibration back, which then has the capacity and the space, the safe space it needs to express ideas and solutions and ways forward with each other. And the other thing very pertinent to all of this is when you start to do the breath work, you might very quickly start to feel feelings that you haven't felt for a long time because you've suppressed them, you've pushed them down, you've repressed them, and they are not. It's like your ego and your sense of protection wants to keep you away from those feelings because they don't feel good or beneficial. But you have to really, in order to release them and invite the good manifesting capabilities that we all have, we're all masterful manifestors. In order for that capability to come online, so to speak, we have to release the negative programming, the negative patterns of behavior. And that happens when we go into states of meditation and bliss, where anything that's icky and stuck will come up to be seen, realized, released, and freed, so that the new information, the new programs of positivity, creativity, joy, connectivity, compassion, empathy, all of these things come back online. But we can't just do it from a position of fight, flight, or freeze. We'll just perpetuate the same over and over. We have to work on ourselves. We have to understand that the body has a miraculous intelligence and that we can cultivate our own inner pharmacy, which leads to not only our own health, but the collective health around us, because you're attracting the same, as we talk about a lot, don't we? The vibration that you're in. It's not 100% guaranteed that you're never going to have a bad experience, and you're not going to invite a narcissist into your life. You're not going to invite someone who just wants to, if you're doing quite well financially, you know, they might try and con you or whatever, but you have to be discerning, especially in these times. The point is that you will, though, attract your tribe. If you are working on yourself and being and acknowledging your own vulnerability and what hasn't worked, what's no longer serving you, what you need to release in order to be a better version of yourself, then you can become your best friend. If you keep doing the same and perpetuating the same behaviors over and over again and watching the same negative news, buying into the fear porn and the idea that nothing can be done, then all you're going to attract is more of that, and you'll lap it up, because addiction in the mental mind, the subconscious mind, all of these facets that we all have, it doesn't understand the difference, but it laps up addiction in every form imaginable. So you have to actually have the willpower to turn off and start again. And this will go on daily for a long time. You may have icky, stuck feelings of resentment, jealousy, when you were abused or when you were suffering in any way. All of these feelings will come to the surface to be freed and released and felt and acknowledged first, then freed and released. But you can't just magic them away. It doesn't work like that. You have to go through the process, which is a tricky one, because the ego works to protect us from negative feelings. So we're in a constant battle to find who we truly are, to become our best friend, and to repel the worst enemy within us, as in the two wolves, where actually, you know, it's very easy when you have a negative experience, and I'll speak for myself, I'll be vulnerably honest for everyone here. My battle in life has been with alcohol. My battle in life has also been with porn addiction. My battle in life has also been with cigarettes. My battle in life has also been with wanting to experience whatever's new all the time, so I don't have to face the old that is still rooting around in my system. But whenever I do that, and especially as we get older, and I'm now 40, it doesn't work anymore. It takes more energy than it gives. And eventually, when you become sober again, whether it be a weekly thing or 2 weeks along, you always come back to those feelings that you haven't actually acknowledged that exist within you, that you need to clear, that the patterns of behavior that are going on in your life are because you are not, you're not acknowledging the idea that they're not serving you, right? They are so habitual that they take, when we go back, cycle back again, the time, our most valuable commodity in life is our time every day. What do we do with our time? So to get drunk, it takes time. To get stoned, it takes time. To, sit in front of porn, it takes time. Whatever it is for everyone, acknowledge it within yourself, because we all have one of or many of these things, and they are all coming up to be seen in these times because they are all part of the negative programming, things that we've used as coping mechanisms, things that we've used as protection mechanisms, things that we've used as ways of dealing with trauma. They've all been there as a crutch, but we will be so much better off when we do the inner work and we come back to a clean slate where all of this joy and creative energy can be reimagined. And again, in the breath work, you can always spend all your time doing the exercises. You can spend all of your time envisioning the reality that you want to create for yourself, imagining your perfect day, imagining your perfect life. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What are the colors? Breathe them in. Breathe in love. Breathe out gratitude. Do not worry about the things that you cannot control. Comes back to the serenity prayer. Just act in a way that is in accordance with your best value system, the one that you just have an intrinsic feeling when something makes you feel good. What have you done today to make yourself feel proud? Is that M People? Heather Small, I think, did that
Don't
song.
ask me about music. I'm not very good on these sort of things.
So I need a breath now.
Yes, I'm sure you do. It's like I thought I'd switched on a podcast there. It's very good. So, I mean, essentially what you're saying is that we have challenges in life. These challenges, if we acknowledge them and acknowledge the amount of time that they take from our lives, we could be doing other things. Of course, sometimes it is, I suppose, quite foolish to think that something else is just as important, because actually that thing called time, I mean, you see, I'm quite interested in something called idleness at the moment. And some viewers may know that I've just started, well, in the last month or two now, started smoking a pipe. And there seems to be a bit of a resurgence on the internet of people who are putting up videos about pipe smoking, which is a very bizarre thing. But to me, it's actually quite a spiritual thing, because actually, people are smoking pipes and smoking things and ingesting things. Now, this isn't any mind-altering things. It's not alcohol, and it's very different to cigarettes and things. It is about really being in the moment, of doing something which is in and of itself quite innocuous. You're just puffing clouds of smoke, but the whole paraphernalia of getting your pipe going and you sit down, you smoke. Now, you might read, you might watch something. Personally, I just prefer just to sit with nothing and enjoy the flavour of tobacco, and that's what it is. And because pipe tobacco is probably the nearest you're going to get to the natural tobacco that's been dried and cured and all of that, rather than cigarettes that have got addictive stuff in it. And nicotine, of course, has been shown to actually be useful if you've had a certain medical intervention and there's a certain spiky protein in there. So if there is such a thing as shedding, and I'm not sure whether it is, actually the old pipe smoking is quite handy. So if you've got somebody who you're a bit suspicious of and they're getting a bit close, get the pipe out, puff a big load of smoke, they'll go away. But the point is, hang on, I'm going to let you speak because you had 4 hours earlier. I sit there, and in a way it is meditative. And I sit there not necessarily thinking of anything particular. I sit there to just enjoy that moment. And in my life, which is very busy in front of all these things, I can do it inside or outside. I can stop my van if I'm out in the countryside, sit on a log. You don't want to do it on a windy day, because it's not so fun. And it's a weird thing to say this, but it is just joyful. Because it's not, and it's not unhealthy. And people will tell me, oh, it's very unhealthy, because we've been programmed. And actually there are now studies come out which shows that actually, again, like all things, these stories that have come into the mainstream media to say, oh, smoking kills and smoking does this and all that, it's not that at all. In fact, no animals.
Labeling does more of that.
The labeling on it, and I cover up those labels that the government put on because that is hypnotic, and that is where the danger is. And the government know what they're doing when they do that. But
Important caveat though, Richard. It is true. Anything in the space of one day. Like we shouldn't be doing something very.
Well, you wouldn't sit there all day
doing
long
20
ingesting.
times or more a day. So
No, of course you might have one or
like
two
everything's a
bowls.
treat and a moment to really embrace. Then that's absolutely. And as long
Yes,
as again, you take the labels away and you take everything else away from any experience in life, and you just remember that you are 100% source consciousness having an experience. You can never be harmed.
exactly.
That then reprograms everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I guess my point was to come back to your point of saying that all these addictions and things that people have, you could be doing something better or more enjoying with your time. And I say I'm actually. It depends how you value your time, and I value the time that I might spend 20 to 30 minutes sitting doing bugger all and just puffing it. And to somebody else, they might go, oh my God, it's so lazy. Well, I'm a busy man. I do lots of different things. But to me, actually doing nothing and just being in the moment, which is what pipe smoking does for me. And you could, in a way, it is its own meditation. You're not sitting there going, and all of this. I'm just sitting there open to thoughts, but not specifically generating any. And it's just a delightful idleness. And I might have a cup of tea with it or coffee or something else, but mostly it's just about being stationary and not worrying about anything.
Well,
And do that 2 or 3 times a day, and it's resetting me.
yeah. And everyone needs that. Whatever it is that works for each individual, you will have something that works for you, and do not let anyone else say to you that thing is, oh, you shouldn't do that.
And so it might be cycling, it might be walk. I mean, I walk as well. It could be a whole load of different things, but for me, it's just that it gives me a moment where I consciously, at the beginning of it, just not bothering to think about the next interview sometimes you go on a line of thought that you had no idea, and I think that for me is where I might contact whatever, the higher self or what have you.
Or you might call it the noosphere,
You could call it that,
yeah.
or the smogosphere, as I'm puffing around it. Oh yes, but it does elicit thought. You do get contemplative, and what people don't do enough of, I think, is that
Exactly.
if they don't stop. And the other thing is that people, of course, they'll do, if there's a moment of silence, the thing that people do is break it by putting on a podcast or turning on the telly, or they can't face
Richard,
being on their own.
Literally, yes, exactly. Literally anything they can do in that moment that they have to hand, that they can do to break that moment, which is actually begging them to go with
Yes,
them.
it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And we just get, you can't sit and just be alone with yourself and face nothing, and see what happens. And that to me is the most joyous moment of the day.
See, I'd love to do an interview with you where it was literally like this, but neither one of us were saying
To say anything.
5 minutes at a time and see what come up.
I'm not sure that people would want to watch it though.
Well, you'd be surprised, but it wouldn't.
Well, there's always.
It wouldn't attract as many viewers as you have to the negative stuff right now. But for
No.
each one that is actually getting to a point of meditative states and bliss states, that has much. See, the positive energy in the universe. The universe is benevolent. In fact, it wants to expand its joy. I would say, from everyone else, that it's very clear that we have for the longest time been conditioned to think negatively.
Yes.
But actually, when you start to think positively, as I've done in my life, it's so anecdotal, you might call it as evidence, but it's so very clear to me through my own experience that it works, that you attract what you're putting out through your own thoughts and feelings. It comes back to you. That
But anecdote, I mean, you said anecdotally as if that's like, not important. But anecdotally, your own experience is the only thing that is going to, you can read a survey or some research done. Well, that doesn't mean to me, if it works for me, it works for me. That's
Bless
it.
you.
End of.
So that's very, very key. I would suggest for anyone listening and anyone who will go on to listen to this is please, what works for you, keep doing it. You can dig all sorts of wells, few will reach water. But if something works for you and you're finding water, as in that amazing feeling of wanting to jump out of bed in the morning because of what you've been practicing, then keep doing that practice. Why wouldn't you? Surely it's preferable to
Yes.
another course.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm interested in lots of things, and I take guidance from lots of things. And you take a bit, you cherry pick, and then suddenly you find actually doing this and doing this. It's not how he said to do it, and it's not how she said to do it, but it works for me.
Yeah.
And if it works for you, and then all the time that works for me, and if something else might come along and go, oh, that's the icing on the top. That little thing that somebody else suggests, and I think we're all doing that all the time to a degree.
Yeah, and then the more we become consciously aware of like our thoughts and feelings that bring us positive experiences and the ones that don't, surely the more we tap into what is preferable as we go along. And that is my ultimate message to everyone, and bringing into the grounding garden gatherings that we started last year is I had no idea that's what I was going to do in this life. But now I have this ultimate sense of purpose and mission. It gets me up to meet new people, to embrace new ideas, to evolve and expand daily the aspects of what we're trying to achieve, and to encourage others with feedback to tell us when something hasn't worked so that we can tweak and rejig, and all of these things again, it's about non-attachment to the negativity that has been so instilled, and that we have to know everything that these malevolent beings are planning, because actually it does us a disservice. I don't think they care about whatever attention they get, whether it be negative or positive, so long as they're getting the attention.
Right.
Because that stops our vital life force energy, our time, our value,
doing our own
anything
thing.
different.
So tell me about your grounding garden gatherings then, and how that works, and what you do with it, and the sort of things. Because I know I've posted a couple of your challenges and things, and some of your recent videos in my whatever you call it.
We've still got to get you and the lovely Julia up for a challenge before.
Yes.
But I want to encourage you and Julia to come together to whatever works for you as an empowering challenge that you both want to do for each other, or for each.
Yes. So, well, tell us what you're doing then. What for those people who have no idea, from base ground up, what is grounding garden gathering?
Okay, well, very briefly from the beginning, it was sitting around the fire with a couple of very, very dear friends that I've met on my travels. And we came together in my mother's garden, which is a very beautiful sanctuary space, around a fire late at night, indulging in psychedelic experiences and imagining and envisioning what we could do in the garden that would bring joy to people, and how we could offer that.
What can you do in the garden that brings joy?
So what we've done so far
broadcastable
is we've brought people of many different healing modalities together. So they're not operating in competition. They're operating collaboratively and co-creatively. People get to decide what's right and wrong for them. It's not about outsourcing it to some expert. It's people get to be the master of their own body. If something doesn't resonate with them, they can move on to the next thing. So there are many different modalities that we are giving for people to try, that including bioresonance, which is a fairly new healing technology, which will scan your entire body in, a very short moment to pick up if you've got parasites in your gut, if you've got an area of your body which is in trauma, and if you work with these with people who've studied what the machines can tell you, and they've studied, what the remedies might be, then they will suggest what might work as a remedy. But if you,
I did have a lady on the show actually who was doing telling us about bioresonance, and
yes,
she did it on a strand of hair. She could tell you no matter where you were in the world, she could tell you what was wrong with you.
exactly, and it's astonishing, this remote, the remote possibilities, although they're not remote, they're very
Well, we're kind of
paradoxes.
connected in ways that we don't ordinarily imagine
Yeah.
because we see things in a very physical sense. Yeah.
So
So you
that's,
bring people together in your garden.
yeah, and then we're encouraging. We really want to. I think for certain right now, aside from everything else that we're doing for the elder generations in regards to healing with these different techniques. So there's bioresonance, biodiagnostics. By the way, biodiagnostics in Germany is still a thing. They've totally eradicated it in the hospitals here. But if you want to go and look at Germany, they use it as a thing, and that measures your meridian points. And if there's a machine that has a dial between 0 and 100. Hang on. Yeah, and 100. And in the middle is where you want to be. Every meridian point. So, the little
And what is a meridian point for those that are thick as me?
an energy point in your body. So
Right.
where the energy flows between joints and vessels and everything else. And it's all Chinese medicine. People need to really go back to
Is this like the acupuncture that they
exactly.
put
Yeah,
the needles in the meridian points?
exactly. And our feet are, literally full of them for areas of all of our body. That's why reflexology is another mechanism, another modality. So the point being, though, that there is a systemic movement to get rid of these things in
Yes.
the NHS, and in America they've gone if they were ever there.
Mm.
Tesla machines is another one. Many of these healing modalities are not invited into the
Mainstream. Yeah. Like,
mainstream.
well, we've seen that across everything, haven't we? Where,
Yeah.
it's all sell, sell, sell. Big Pharma wants to sell you some pills that have an amazing amount of side effects, including death, which is always useful to have on
Astonishing, isn't
hand.
it? So a big caveat, though, while I remember, is not all of these are meant for everyone. Meaning,
No.
one might work for one person, another might
Yes.
work for another person.
But I mean, that is also the same with Big Pharma. Let's be fair. You could take an aspirin and it may not get rid of your headache.
Yeah, yeah,
It may actually knock you over and kill you.
yeah, and so when we're operating on a principle where it's a fully open experience where people don't have to sign insurance documents or things
No,
like
of
that.
course.
It's
I
on
think
your own.
I think people have got that. I think they understand so have you got events coming up that people can come along to? Are you got any?
Absolutely, yeah. So we just had one in Wootton Under Edge. We've got some beautiful feedback from there, and the next one will be April 20th, and that's a Saturday, and it will be in the Cotswolds. The location is yet to be fully.
The Cotswolds,
Um,
though, very lovely part of England. If you happen not to be in that area, and
it
I
will
could
it will be a beautiful garden space where
and April a great time to do it
yeah,
because you
bring it
get
in
the
the
April
spring,
showers.
and
Bring your umbrella.
we're in the year of the dragon, which also means we can call in the weather, and we did it last
Fantastic.
year, and it worked a treat. But
Will you have some cloud busters to get rid of the chemtrails?
wow, that's something else for people to go and research for themselves is orgonite, and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You use copper rods and
Charles Dowding has one in his garden, and he says it works. He
they
says,
do
my
work. They
my
honestly
neighbours
do
my
work.
neighbours have all the crap falling down on them and the cloud cover, and he says, which is one of the reasons
Do
his
they ever
garden
do
looks
they
so
ever get the
amazing.
neighbor peering over the fence going, how come it's
Yeah. Well, how come you? What are you doing? Is it the fertilizer you're doing? Is it insecticides? No. I just got this rather interesting cloud busting machine.
on that note, Richard, it is wonderful to see. I will be honest, I was very judgmental over people in my village that, they're too far gone. They're never gonna, open their minds to these new things or old things as often they are as well. Hence why I like to say, it's not all new age, it's our
Mm.
ancient future,
Yes.
actually. And the neighbors that I have spoken to recently, they are twigging on to things. It's a gentle process, and this is another really key thing for people to understand. When you're talking to people, don't go hell for leather on what your beliefs are, because and wanting that reflection straight back at you. You have to be gentle, because for all intents and purposes, they're not, as well aware as where you are at this moment. So you have to see them as the perfect beings they were born as, fundamentally. You don't want to judge them, and I've done this, so I know what I'm talking about when I say I feel bad now that I've judged them
You're a naughty
harshly.
boy.
So actually there are many people that are very, very aware that something doesn't feel right, something's not going right with what's going on, and
And
they just
really and
don't know
truly,
what to do.
yes, I think really and truly, if you're just pointing ways rather than telling them they're wrong, you're just pointing ways, they'll gravitate to you, won't they?
Exactly. And this is the thing. We are often proved wrong as well as we grow in awareness, because
Oh,
something
I'm
that
proved
works
wrong
for
all the
one man
time.
is not necessarily something that's just the truth. There's very few objective truths. There's a lot of subjective truth that from one moment to the next is very changeable. And this is why compassion um, is the key thing. And if I may, it comes back to forgiveness. Even the likes of Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, all the controllers, whoever the hell they are, and whatever the reality is about where they came from, or if they're even human, whatever, it doesn't really matter, does it? We know what they're doing,
Mm.
but instead of seeing them as evil and bad and unsavable, all of this, why not see them as having limited awareness, and
Yes. They're
thus,
cuddly things that you want to
you
snuggle
know,
up to. Good old Klaus, nothing better than, well, maybe not.
it's
That might be extreme.
it's a bit hard to go that far. but but
But
but
they
you're
clearly
right. You are
misguided.
right.
I
It
mean,
is
they
it
are
is about
misguided
forgiveness,
people.
because I don't I they can't possibly be in a position where they feel it, where they
No,
feel what
no.
they are doing to others, because if they were, they wouldn't be able to do it.
I totally agree. I mean, these narcissistic people. Something is a bit screwy in how they came about, and they wouldn't be doing it
Yeah.
if it's. But yeah, it's very difficult to love people who are there, pointing a gun in many different ways at you, through the sky, through the water, through high, all of that, and then go, oh, but you're lovely, aren't you? Just pull the trigger,
But
go
it's
on,
not
see what happens.
necessarily about, you're lovely, because they're not.
No, no,
But
you're hideous and ugly, and most of them are. Funny enough, they are pretty ugly, aren't they? I mean, there's very few beautiful people who are on their side. I mean, I don't know whether they woke up one morning and just went, "Oh, we pulled the ugly card. We better be the
well, no, I'll
baddies."
bring Tony Blair up there, because
Well, he's
when
ugly.
he
I mean, he looks like a sea devil now. You
yes,
won't remember the
but when no,
1970s Doctor Who, but he does look, with his hair pulled back. He just looks like one of those sea devils from Doctor Who.
he has looked for a while now, and ever more so demonic to me. But when he took over, he was quite a young man, wasn't he, in
Hmm.
1997,
Hmm.
with Things Can Only Get Better as the soundtrack to his
Yeah.
labor. And I don't see a lot of people around me who have drastically become so demonic as he looks. When he's interviewed, there's a sort of an enjoyment that I feel from him,
Hmm.
of being evil. Like, but
Hmm.
again, this is my interpretation, my
Your own personal opinion, and
yeah.
if Tony's watching, we don't mean it. We don't mean it.
Well, actually, Tony, sort your shit out.
Actually, we do.
Okay, so just to get back to the grounding
Sorry.
garden gatherings, which is a bit
Yeah,
of
yeah.
a twister on purpose, because it gets the mind going. But we want to embrace the idea that we all need a safe, loving space to come together in community where we can heal together through whatever means works for each individual, not
Yes.
push anyone to do something that doesn't work for them,
No, no. Yeah.
allow people to choose for themselves.
Yeah.
And then it's all about celebration and coming together, laughing, sharing, music, embracing what we are all capable of when we have reimagined our time as to what really brings us joy and connection and happiness. And that being, I think you'll find unity through music, through food, through conversation around a fire, storytelling, as old as man, as old as age is. You know, we all need.
You're not reinventing the wheel, really, are you? You're just sort
No.
of saying, "Here is the wheel."
Exactly.
This
It's
is it.
all there for us. Nothing that we need
Yes.
is unimaginable. It's already all here.
Yes.
I
So
really
how do people?
encourage
How do
everyone
people?
to-
How,
Sorry, I
yeah,
just
how do
want to-
people? Yeah, go on. Well, I was just trying to promote it for you so
Yes,
that
go
people
on,
can
go on,
find out
go on.
where you are. How do they know about you, and how do they get to find your website and all of that?
Well, so it's groundinggardengathering.com, www.groundinggardengathering.com.
Yeah, I'll bung the link in the
Thank you very
description.
much. And
Pleasure.
we've got a Facebook page, but I'll send that to you and you can add
Send
it.
me all the links, and
All
we'll
of
just
the links.
shove them in there, and people can click away like Billy O.
And one last, this is totally aside. I could go on about that. One last thing on.
Well, don't go on too much.
No, I know. You want to go and see the lovely Julia. I know.
Things to do, people to see, and we're nearly up to an hour, so I'm going to try and curtail you.
Curtail it,
because
yeah.
you're such a young, passionate chappie. It's like I'm going to have to put you back in your cage. So go on. This one aside, you've got 4 minutes.
One aside
starting
with the GGG
now.
is that you're welcome. Like wherever you're from, whatever your background, like there is no judgment in the spaces that we're holding. We
No.
invite everyone to empower themselves to come.
Can you imagine though if you'd said
offerings.
there is? I mean, this is the irony. You're saying all these things, but I can kind of like imagine you said, "Well, there is judgment in here. You've got to be 5'6". You've got to be this size, this weight, this color, this, that, and the other."
Ironically,
I imagine.
Richard, it is
Yeah.
it is a process right now of the only people that we are struggling to keep happy in a way is the practitioners themselves, because we don't want to exclude people because they can't afford it. So we're trying to make it as affordable as possible for everyone using suggested donation.
Yeah.
Also, we encourage the practitioners that come, whether they're shiatsu massage or qigong or tai chi or breath work or meditation, whatever it is that anyone's offering, we encourage them to give to the pot, the mother fund, if you want, so that we can evolve this and grow it, because it is giving value back to our communities, back to the individuals, and so the collective is healing as a result. And we can only do that through the donations. We can't do it without the monetary influence, sadly, at this point. It has to be part of the process.
Yes, but I think that's
Eventually-
very laudable. It's not like you're saying it's 50 quid to come in,
No.
and you can smell the coffee and clip the roses.
No, and the value is, that it's not only the healing devices, it's the connection with others, like-minded people who need an outlet, need someone to trust in, to give their honest, vulnerable account of themselves to, people who are playing music, who want to learn an instrument. Everyone comes together to uplift each other. That's the be all and end all with the GGG. And then the only other thing I wanted to get onto on this interview was about the farmers right now all around the world.
Yeah.
So let's embrace the farmers. Let's go out with our mobiles and our cameras and everything. Let's talk to them. Let's get their perspective and flood the internet with it as much as possible, because no food, no life. And it literally is. This is what they're coming after now. And I think it will be the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak, because it is having that. You can see it all around Europe. If you don't believe me, just go and have a look at some alternative news sources. They won't show you very much on the BBC or ITV, but you will see it elsewhere if you look for it.
Rest assured, nobody watching this channel watches the BBC. None of that. I know that for a fact. They write to me and they tell me.
It's for newbies, Anyway,
Yeah.
it is literally the
Don't worry, I'm hoping to
greatest
get Mark
thing that we can
Byford
do right
on
now is
and
get
a
behind
number
the
of
farmers movement.
yeah. I'm hoping to get Mark Byford and Gareth Wynne Jones on the show to chat about what they're doing. Listen, We've had an hour. It's been great fun. It is ground gardening gathering. Is it plural?
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah. Garden gatherings.
No, you got it wrong again.
I got it. It's good game, good game. All right, my love, let's try it one more time. www.groundinggardengathering.com. The description is in the thing, and I'm going off now. But thank you, Rob. It's been lovely to chat to you and hear your positivity and all your advice to people. And let's check it all out, and then go and do those challenges which you've got on your website as well. In the meantime,
oh yes, please leave a link to the YouTube where those empowering challenges.
Give me all the links and I'll just stick them in. 400 links is fine. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm off now to get some lunch. In the meantime, big thank you to Rob for coming back on. He's off to India, I believe, to go and do some exciting stuff. In the meantime, I'll be back with more monologues and, of course, my wonderful interviews. But from Rob and I, it's been a joy to have you. Till next time.
Bless you all.
Goodbye.